So it's been a couple of weeks now since the Marvels released in theaters, and I was originally planning to do like a full review for the Marvels, but I ultimately sort of ran out of time to do that, and I feel like that the time has kind of passed for that. But what I did want to make a video on was the post-credit scenes from the Marvels, because I feel like they are both really interesting and way more kind of forward thinking for the MCU than I think a lot of us were anticipating for this movie. Like, I think a lot of us felt like the Marvels was going to be a bit more of a, I guess, low-key film for the MCU and for Phase 5, but it seems like that this film actually has some pretty big things in it that are going to hint towards the future of the MCU that I kind of want to break down for you guys today. So first of all, just to give you, like I say, I didn't do a full review on the Marvels, but just to give you my quick thoughts on it, I thought the Marvels was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's the best Marvel movie this year. I don't think it's quite as good as Guardians of the Galaxy 3. However, it's a lot better than Ant-Man 3. I think that this movie is a lot more fun than people are giving it credit for. Like, obviously, it's a very divisive movie. Like, there are a lot of opinions online of people saying how good it is. Like, I don't think it's, like, amazing. I don't think it's top-tier MCU or anything, but it's a good, fun movie. I enjoyed it. Also, it's a crisp, like, 105-minute movie, which we haven't had in the MCU for a really long time, and I really liked that. The cast is great. Brie Larson does a great job. Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan continues to be just absolutely wonderful. I think the action's good fun. Like, it is a bit, like, convoluted in places, and then also, like, the villain might be... Honestly, she might be a contender for the worst villain in the MCU. Like, Dar-Ben is terrible. But on the whole, the Marvels I thought was really good fun, and the fact it ended on these kind of two huge, crazy post-credit scenes definitely left me walking out of the cinema with a big smile on my face. So the first post-credit scene isn't really a post-credit scene in the traditional sense. It's actually really just the last scene of the movie. But we go to New York and we see Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop walk through the door of her apartment only to find Kamala Khan sat there, and she does her best Nick Fury recruiting Iron Man impression from the first Iron Man film. And, of course, what this is setting up and indicating is the Young Avengers. Now, the Young Avengers is something that I think a lot of us MCU fans have been speculating about for a while and have theorized that is coming at some point. And this post-credit scene kind of gave us our first real confirmation from Marvel that, yes, this is happening. I think that this scene was really fun. Like, not only did I get really excited by the fact that Kate Bishop was back, because I loved Hawkeye. Like, it's my favourite Marvel Disney Plus series. Genuinely, I loved Hawkeye. And I love Haley Steinfeld in the role. I love Kate Bishop. So seeing her on the big screen was great. But the fact that you have this kind of rip-off Nick Fury recruiting Tony Stark scene was really fun. I think, Iman Vellani, who's such a huge, like, super fan of all this stuff, like, you can tell she was having really good fun doing, like, her own spin on it. And this is, of course, her recruiting Kate for the Young Avengers. Now, I'm really excited to see what this is. I'm presuming Young Avengers will probably be a Disney Plus thing. Like, I'm presuming it will be a Disney Plus show. So it's interesting that they kind of started the Young Avengers thing in a movie, but we'll see how it goes. But what this does mean is we have our first two confirmed members of the Young Avengers, that being Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, and, of course, Kate Bishop. But I guess this does then beg the question of who else is going to show up for this Young Avengers team. So one character who is mentioned by Kamala in this scene is Cassie Lang. She says that, oh, did you know that Ant-Man has a daughter? And that, of course, indicates that Cassie Lang's stature from who we saw in Quantumania will likely be joining this team. I didn't love Cassie in Quantumania, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't really like Catherine Newton's portrayal of the character. I still am confused as to why they recast Emma Thurman from Endgame. I think that's just a strange choice, personally. But, she did a good job in the movie. I wasn't, like, particularly enthralled, or I wasn't in love with her character or anything. But, she's a bit more front and center in this Disney Plus or, this Young Avengers project, then she might grow on me. But that's, we can take that as basically our third confirmed member of the Young Avengers. So who else are there? Well, I'm going to go off the basis that, if this is the Young Avengers, they're going to follow the template of the original Avengers. Thus, we might have 6, maybe 7 members of the team. So if we've got 3, who are the other 3? I think the first one that sticks out to me is Scar. who was introduced at the very end of She-Hulk. Now, to be fair, Scar initially doesn't jump out to me as being the first major choice. However, he was introduced at the end of She-Hulk. He's, of course, Bruce Banner's son. And I find it weird because they introduced him, and I don't see a place in the MCU for Scar other than here, really. Hulk doesn't have his own standalone projects, so he's not going to appear in anything like that. Sure, if we get a second season of She-Hulk, he could show up there, but I don't really feel like they would do a whole story around him. So the only other place I could see him working and operating is inside of a Young Avengers team. And I mean, they kind of, every team, every superhero team needs its like muscle character, and obviously the Hulk was the muscle of the original Avengers, so I guess it would make sense to have Hulk's son be the muscle of the Young Avengers. That makes sense, right? The other character that I think will definitely be on this team is Wiccan, which is Billy, Wanda's kid. Now, obviously, the older version of Billy is going to be making an appearance in Agatha Darkhold Diaries, I believe it's now called, which is the Agatha Harkness show, spin-off from WandaVision. He's going to be played by Heartstopper's Joe Locke. Now, I feel like he is definitely going to be on this lineup. He is a classic member of the Young Avengers from the comics. And the other reason I think he's going to be here is because in the comics, Wiccan is famously in a relationship with a character called Hulkling. Now, Hulkling I don't think they'll ever do in the MCU, purely for the fact that he is a combination of Kree and Skrull. And the whole Kree-Skrull storyline really hasn't landed with audiences in the MCU. Wiccan with Scar. So they're going to both be on the Young Avengers, and they're going to be in a relationship. That's how I kind of see this going. Because again, I just don't see them doing Hulkling. And at the end of the day, like, they are different characters, but, Hulkling is supposed to be kind of like a smaller, kind of younger Hulk-ish character, despite the fact he's not a Hulk, technically. But Scar is kind of similar. And I feel like I say, rather than doing Hulkling and the whole Kree-Skrull thing, they will just replace Hulkling with Scar and then do that same storyline with Wiccan, personally. So that's mainly why I put Scar there, and also putting Wiccan there. He's a prominent member of the Young Avengers in the comics, but also tying in with that relationship, I think makes sense. And the only other major character who stands out to me is Patriot, who was introduced in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He was played in that show. He's a character by the name of Eli Bradley. He was the son or the grandson of Isaiah Bradley, which was Carl Lumley's character. Now, Patriot in the comics is kind of like a young Captain America, so he would be the cap of this team, essentially. Now, I'm still not 100% sure about Patriot because I don't know if he is actually going to become anything in the MCU. We'll have to see what, Captain America Brave New World brings us. But generally speaking, I think he's a good choice. They did introduce the character, which, Marvel doesn't necessarily introduce people unnecessarily. So I feel like he is there for a reason. But also, this team will kind of need a Cap-style character, and Patriot could fill that void. Now, just to throw in an extra character for fun, if we are presuming that Kamala Khan is kind of the Nick Fury of this team, then that would actually mean that there is another spot we need to fill. And for that, I'm going to go with Ironheart, of course introduced in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We'll see with this character, because ultimately she is getting her own TV show on Disney+. They started filming it, but it's been delayed indefinitely at the moment, so we don't really know what's happening with it. But if we're kind of going off of the basis that we're kind of, we've got a Hulk on the team, we've got a Captain America, we've got a Hawkeye. We do also then kind of need an Iron Man. And therefore, I guess the natural choice is Ironheart. Riri. She was introduced in Black Panther. She already has a couple of suits that she got from Wakanda. So this makes sense, We'll have to see, like I say, because she's getting her own show, so we'll have to see where that goes. But I think Ironheart is a good choice, especially if, like I say, we have Kamala kind of acting as the Nick Fury. Then that means you still have a whole team to fill. Then that would mean there is an extra slot, and I feel like the extra slot makes sense to go to Riri Williams at this point. So that's my team for the Young Avengers. Like I say, I'm sure this is going to be a fun Disney Plus series. It might even be a movie on Disney Plus. We'll have to wait and see what Marvel announces, but I think that this is a solid-looking team for the Young Avengers. I think it's the team that makes the most sense. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about my whole Wiccan Scar theory. Like, what do you think about that? But that's how I personally feel like this is going to go down. Then, moving over to the second post-credit scene, well, really the only post-credit scene of the movie, let's just jump straight into it. X-Men. I certainly didn't expect the Marvels to be the film to properly, truly introduce the X-Men into the MCU. Kind of. Obviously, we have a scene where Monica, at the end of the movie, she goes through this portal, this kind of star jump gate thing, and she ends up in an alternate reality where she ends up in the X-Mansion. Now, I think that what this scene is telling us is that this is going to be how the X-Men do get folded into the MCU. I could be completely wrong, but obviously this scene does take place in an alternate reality, where we see Kelsey Grammer as Beast, who of course played Beast in X-Men The Last Stand and also briefly in Days of Future Past. And we also see Lashana Lynch returning as Maria Rambeau, but she's now playing Binary in this. Which is very confusing, but yeah. So does this mean that, this is like the X-Men that we're going to see in the MCU? I'm not 100% sure, because obviously I feel like with the new X-Men that we're going to get in the MCU, Kevin Feige is going to want to cast a whole new young team. Whereas with this, obviously we've got Beast, played by Kelsey Grammer, who, obviously Kelsey Grammer, no offense to the guy, he's not exactly young, and he also has played the character before. So this could just be an alternate version of the X-Men that we're going to see, or alternatively, perhaps this is going to be where the X-Men come from. I mean, I do think that it is likely that the X-Men is going to come from an alternate universe. I think that's likely, because otherwise it's that thing of, it's the classic Marvel thing when we get new characters, oh, where were you when this happened? Where were you when Thanos, was invading the world? Like, where were you? So I feel like that it is likely the X-Men will come from an alternate universe. I'm just not sure if it's a mutant from the X-Men cast. We got to see Beast here, who looks exactly like Beast from the animated series and how he's going to look in X-Men 97. So it's cool to get that. I'm just not sure exactly what weight this scene is going to hold, in a few years' time when we eventually... So yeah, sorry if that last part was a little bit jumbled and all over the place. I kind of lost my train of thought halfway through, but what do you guys think about this X-Men post-credit scene for the MCU? Like, what do you feel like it means? How do you feel like the X-Men is going to get introduced into the MCU? Because this post-credit scene, as fun as it was, and as cool as it was to see Kelsey Grammer again as Beast, I'm still not 100% sure exactly what Marvel were trying to say with this, and exactly what this indicates for the X-Men going forward, because, again, this was an alternate reality, but is this the reality that the X-Men are coming from? I'm not 100% convinced, but make sure you let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below, and also what you think of the Young Avengers scene as well. And also, what did you think about the Marvels? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, I didn't get to do a full review for it, so be sure to let me know your thoughts on everything we discussed in this video in the comment section down below. And if you want to see more Marvel content, DC content, and everything else in between, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and don't miss any uploads from me. And I hope to see you guys again next time.